morning guys, how are we all doing? So Dan from Trading with Dan here. This is our Bitcoin morning update. So if you guys wouldn't mind smashing that like button, we will go straight over to the charts. So what a day, what a great time to be in crypto. What a great time, as long as your name is Arthur Hayes. Obviously for the rest of us, probably not quite such a good time, but hey, it is what it is. This is what crypto does. None of us were complaining when we had this massive pump up, which was obviously higher than we've had this move down, and we're now retracing some of that move. This is the way. This is the way of Bitcoin. This is how Bitcoin moves. It is a savage mistress. That's what it is. It likes to do some crazy things. But if you obviously look at it in the context of what it does in the past, it's not actually that crazy. It's just what Bitcoin does. It's just how Bitcoin moves. It is a very volatile asset. It is the wild west of trading. So yeah, so what is going on here, guys? So as we spoke about in last night's video, I was well cognizant, I was a bit aware of the fact that we tend to get these moves in waves of 3. Maybe it's the Ellioticians, maybe who knows who it is, but I notice it all the time. You get these moves in 3. 1 move, 2 move, 3 moves. So we've had the third move. Obviously, however many moves down we're going to be having, we are one step closer now. We've had this third move, and this may be the last move down. Maybe we'll start to see some sideways. What often happens when you get high range moves, either up or down, you will often get a retrace. You can call it a dead cat bounce, but I think it's a bit more than a dead cat bounce. I would say a dead cat bounce wouldn't get you 50% of the way, but you often see a move of 50% of the way of the actual range. So just looking at this, it is basically around this 11k region. So that is going to be our next big obstacle, I believe, if we are putting in a local bottom here. I call it a local bottom. Maybe we'll come and take it out later. Maybe it'll be this will be the recent bottom, and we'll continue our uptrend. But basically, I would expect us to get back to about 11k, and I would sort of expect that to offer at least some sort of initial resistance, unless we are going to go on an absolute crazy short squeeze, because there are a lot of people eyeing the CME. A lot of people have been eyeing up this CME gap the whole time, and obviously with us being so close, they are clearly getting more excited about it. So people will be puking their positions. People will be waiting to buy. People will be on the sidelines. And what I actually believe is a potential scenario we'll have playing out here is similar to what I was talking about down here. If you guys remember, we had an 8,600 level that I could see the Bitcoin whales were the whales, the market manipulators, whoever you want to call them. I wouldn't call them manipulators. I mean, they are technically manipulating the market, but that's basically what everybody that trades a certain size position is attempting to do. So yeah, they were aiming for 8,600. They wanted to basically get us below 8,600 because they knew that was an important level to puke us out, to puke people out their positions, and then pick up some nice cheap Bitcoin before we went on the big run that they obviously knew was coming, because they are fully aware of the upward pressure that was going on, because they were basically trying to pin Bitcoin down and they failed. So they were aware of this upward pressure which then came. So are we going to have a similar scenario now where certain people are going to try and get this gap filled, but potentially are going to fail? That is one scenario. But the other way I kind of look at it is that maybe they are going to use the proximity of this gap fill to basically to pick up cheap Bitcoin. If they pin us down this area and then people are selling expecting that gap to fill, and then they can pick up that Bitcoin, and then they can basically rip us back up to the upside, and then people will then have to FOMO in, and that would actually give us the momentum to blast us through this 12k formally and finally for good, and get us on our merry way. That is certainly a play that if I was a Bitcoin whale, if I was a market manipulator, if I was an exchange, a leveraged exchange that is basically wanting to liquidate as many people as I can, that's the play. That is the play, is to rip this back up and squeeze these people. Because like I said, we've not had a significant sell-off in the dollar. Sorry, a significant rally in the dollar. We have not even come close as of yet. I mean, this may change, but as of yet, we've not even come close to making a higher high, and we haven't even taken out this trend line. We haven't even taken out the downward sloping trend line, let alone taken out the higher level. So that is one aspect that obviously this obviously gave us part of this is part of the fuel of the sell-off we had in Bitcoin, this move from down here to here. Obviously the other part of the fuel more recently was this move down in stocks, which as you can see is perfectly healthy within the context of the overall trend. I mean, like I said, it may become unhealthy if we break below here, but at the moment it is perfectly healthy within the context of the trend. So yeah, and then obviously we now have some nice momentum. I say nice, but it is a nice amount of momentum if you are basically just disregarding the direction of it. This is there's a lot of momentum now in this move that obviously then got us down to this down on this third leg. So yeah, so actual stock markets are looking like they are going to turn back up a bit. If I turn this back to an hour, you can see. I mean, if you're a stock market trader, if you're trading stocks, if you're trading traditional markets, you don't really care what's going on in Bitcoin. You're looking at this and thinking, okay, this is potentially the buying opportunity. You're not really getting scared, put it that way. And similarly in the dollar index, if you were trading this, if you're a currency trader, you're not looking at this and thinking, okay, this is a fantastic buy, we're now going to reverse this trend and go up. You're looking at this as this is basically a sell level. So yeah, that's what the wider market is looking at. Obviously purely Bitcoin focused people are a bit worried, and yeah, I will admit this doesn't look good, but we do have to also understand we're in a highly volatile, highly unregulated, manipulated by larger players market here. So crazy things can happen. And then yeah, like what I did want to show you guys, I do want to take you again just back to a previous big run up we had, and yeah, and some of the moves. I mean, let's just have a look at some of these moves from basically the low here to the 14k high. I mean, look at that for a pullback. This is not looking that great after that pullback there, incidentally off a daily 9. And then yeah, then we have a big blast up here, incidentally off a daily 9. This is not looking too good once we get a move down to here either. We move literally from over 8k to basically just over 6k. That's a $2,000 move, which is more than, is it more than we've had? Yeah, it's just about more. It's more than we've had from this latest move at the moment. In fact, it's about the same. It's about the same. It's a 2k move, but bearing in mind we're talking about an 8k price point and not a 12k price point. And then yeah, I mean, things are starting to look a bit like not very good when we get this move down here, and then yeah, we move back up, move again back down, and yeah, back up, and then ultimately we do start to make downwards progress, if you call that progress. But yeah, we do get these savage moves down. So yeah, whilst I said obviously 10,600 is the line in the sand, I will have to put that comment in the context of how the momentum this move built. So we came down so hard in 2 legs that it was not going to be very likely we were just going to reverse on a dime at this level right here. So the momentum basically drove us through this level, even though this is a very important level. And if we've been had like sort of normal sort of this sort of trading price action, I don't expect we would have broken it. But because we literally had so much momentum, we obviously had so many people FOMOing long up here that are basically getting squeezed all this way down. People then buying at this level, and then getting squeezed. People actually then buying at the 10,600 level, then getting squeezed. Because we had all this momentum, clearly we didn't hold 10,600. So on the basis, I am obviously giving it the benefit of the doubt, this level as being the line in the sand, just because of the pure ferocity that we've come down here. It never really stood a chance. So that being said, if we can basically get back up to this level, trade out this zone, I do think we will push up. But realistically, we do have to accept there is a CME gap. But I believe the CME gap will play one of two ways. It will play the first way that I've said, that we will hang around this level, people expecting us to get the gap. The whales will accumulate the sellers that are basically either shorting or just puking their positions waiting for the gap fill, and then rip them to the upside, basically, and then everyone will just have to FOMO back into their positions as we start going up and up and up and away. Or we will come down and we will fill this gap and we will just tank straight through it, and then we'll squeeze people the other way. Basically, the people that are basically waiting to buy at a level and long at that level, they'll fill them, and then they'll squeeze them lower. And they are the two options. Option 3, and the most unlikely option, is we just come down, fill that gap, and then basically go back up. I know back with this gap here that we'll go back to again. I know that back with this gap here, this was the ideal Goldilocks scenario. Obviously, this is on the CME. There was a gap here, came down and filled. Obviously, there's not a gap here because this is Bitmex's one, so it's continuous. But yeah, this gap filled. But what I will say, this basically happened overnight with some guy smashing. I can't remember. I think it was don't quote me on the exact numbers, but maybe about 24,000 Bitcoin market sell order on one exchange. That basically slammed us down to here, and then we basically came straight all the way back up, as you can see, within like the next, well, day, 2 days. We came all the way back up. Within the next 2 days, we're basically back where we started. So yeah, that can happen, but that did take it basically seemed like a fat finger at the time, and it clearly was, because we came all the way back up. Everyone bought that back up, and that is basically, this is the Goldilocks scenario that the gap fill people are wanting. But realistically, we're either not going to make that gap, or we're going to blast through that gap. And there's been plenty of gaps where we blasted through and just kept going, including in this run up here. We left a lot of gaps around here and around here that we then subsequently came and filled, basically on our way down. So yeah, let me just get back over to a more relevant point. Get back to where we are. I don't think changing to the 4-hour time frame was the best. So yeah, as you can see, we're getting a bit of a bounce off here, off this level. This level clearly is sort of like is basically sort of the round number 10k level. It obviously does have a significance, as you can see from these levels here. It is a significant level on the basis that I think we have basically had the momentum to overcome this major level, and this not so major level may have what it takes to bounce the price, which it kind of is at the moment. But I'm obviously saying that on the basis that I think we just basically ran over this level. So the Bitcoin bears were pushing their luck, getting us through here. So now I think this area may be too strong for them, at least for the time being. And like I said, I would realistically be looking for a move back to around 11k, and then we've got decisions to make, guys. Then we have got decisions. And yeah, I mean, then realistically we could play out a range between sort of 11k to 10.5k, or maybe even then start to play out a range between 11.5k to 10k, 10.5k, so basically this region here. But yeah, we will have to make a decision, and a lot of my views are based on the fact that dollar is still going down, the stock markets are still going to go up. And yeah, I mean, that is the trend. If I'm wrong on that trend, I'll be wrong on what happens in Bitcoin, but I don't, that is my macro view. Like, I do a lot of macro analysis, and that's why I am currently in crypto, because of this macro view. I had a macro dollar bearish view, and then put a lot of money into crypto, because that was what I thought was one of the better ways for me to express that view. Yeah, so I still maintain that view. So anyway, 4 hours turning up from a low base. 12 hour obviously still coming down pretty strongly. 10 hour getting to a low. Daily, well, daily is basically turned back over, but this could turn back up. Obviously weekly is going to be looking terrible, but yeah, we'll have to see how this week closes. It is obviously Friday today. I mean, yeah, we could all basically sort of hang around up here, but yeah, if we do start to see sustained moving down, I mean, to be honest, we won't need the weekly coming down to tell us that we're coming down. We will come down already. We'll come down without the weekly Stokes being a deciding factor. But yeah, so those are my thoughts, guys. Those are my thoughts. I know I have been saying 10,600 is a line in the sand, but I am just putting that comment into the context of a move down like this. It was never particularly going to have a good chance of reversing the price here. But yeah, I still maintain this is an important area, and we can still get back above this 10,600. I think at least we're going to come back and test 11,000 and decide what to do. But yes, as far as the overall macro trend being broken, like I said, we have obviously taken out that level, but like I said, we came down so fast. That level didn't have a chance of basically living up to its macro importance. If you understand, you guys will understand what I'm saying. So this level, which is clearly important also, or any of these levels, clearly has the opportunity to bounce the price, based on a lot of the momentum and strength would have been used to blast through this very important level. Also, we do have this very nice trend line here. That did guide our prices up here. We sort of broke out what did look like well, to be honest, how it's drawn now did look like an ascending triangle. Did we have a fake out above? Are we going to come back? Are we going to come back and test this trend line and actually fill the CME gap? I would feel a lot more comfortable saying we are going to retest this 10 trend line and bounce off this trend line, and that be what is going on, rather than it be purely we come down and fill the gap and then we just turn around and go back up, because we live in a perfect world. I don't think that is, if we do come down, yeah, we will fill the gap, we will basically bounce around the area, but I feel like it isn't a relevant point, because if we bounce, it doesn't matter whether it's the gap, doesn't matter whether it's trend line, but I would put more significance on us bouncing off this trend line than bouncing off just purely we filled the gaps and now we can go back up. So that is it really. That is my thoughts, guys. All eyes on the dollar and stock markets. If this dollar just starts to come down again, don't forget, right, this is how markets work, this is how stimulus works, this is how stock markets work. Basically, they have to throw a tantrum before they then get the stimulus. They don't just sit on their highs and get given extra stimulus. Markets had to basically the repo markets had to blow up in late last year for then the Fed to do its U-turn on basically its running off the balance sheet. Markets then had to have a big tantrum in March for them, the Fed, to basically come and do everything. Basically, it's done now. And then we are looking at more stimulus, Congress trying to pass more stimulus bills now, and whilst ever they dilly-dally and have their little partisan tantrums over exactly what money is going where, markets then will have a tantrum to force the issue. So the stimulus only comes in after markets have had a tantrum. So the markets are currently having a tantrum. I know Bitcoin is driven by these markets, not Bitcoin having a tantrum and then obviously then the Fed coming in to save Bitcoin, because that's clearly not what's happening. But yeah, these markets are having a bit of a tantrum. And don't forget, the dollar strengthening is not good for America. They do not want the dollar strong. They want this dollar down. If the dollar starts to strengthen, they will start doing all sorts of things to weaken the dollar, which is what they did do. If you look at the weekly, when we're about like 103 or so. When we were basically about 103 here, they basically started to do some crazy stuff to get us to come back down again, because this was going to absolutely destroy the US economy based on the amount of debt that they hold. Bitcoin dominance, we'll have one quick look at Bitcoin dominance, because this is actually holding it in remarkably well. This has not got my annotations on. In fact, we'll look at it in here, then we will have my annotations. BTC.D. Here we go. Let's sort this out. Bitcoin dominance is holding in remarkably well. To say Bitcoin price is coming down, you would expect there'd be more of a flood out of altcoins. Yes, altcoins are getting hit. Some altcoins are getting hit particularly hard, but on the whole, altcoins are roughly getting hit the same amount as Bitcoin, which is an interesting dynamic. So there we go. So right, there we go, guys. Remember, this is not a financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Things may start to look bad in Bitcoin, and I'll let you know when I think they do. At the moment, I don't think we need to abandon ship yet. I'll let you know when I'm abandoning ship, if I abandon ship. But I don't think that's going to be the likely scenario. I think we're just playing out. We've had a double whammy. We've had basically the dollar move up. We've had a stock market move down. We've had then a bit of momentum play. We've had some important levels taken out because of that momentum move down. And we've shaken out a few people. And yeah, that is my view until it isn't. Obviously, we're Bayesian here, Bayesian inference models. We basically take information in as we get it and then reassess the situation. And that view may change, but for the moment, that is my view. So, right, I'll speak to you guys later on today.